information is provided to you to amuse or entertain and not to conform or inform. The content on this channel should not be used to replace professional, financial, medical, or legal advice. All footage taken and used from public sources falls under the fair use of the Digital Millennial Copyright Act of 1998. Therefore, no breach of privacy or copyright has been committed.
If you don't mind me going now into Mandela effect, Tim.
Yeah, let's go into that, because we talk about the Mandela effect a lot, not as the truth of what's happening, but as an actual explanation.
I know it bores you. So.
And yeah, well, it doesn't bore me. It's endlessly fascinating. And right now, some of the major promulgators are gathering for a conference, I think next month. So I'm going to be following it. So I'd definitely like to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts on it is, first, I think, and I will say straight out, Mandela effect to me, the way I see it, is refined gaslighting. And I say refined because normal gaslighting is, for example, you change an object's location and pretend nothing was changed, right? So when the person that is victim of that gaslighting goes back to that place, the person would swear that the object was to the left and now the object is to the right. And someone changed the object and the person is confused, right? So this is the normal gaslighting. In this case, it is not to change an object, but to call attention to it by saying it was in a different location all along. So if I tell you, and if I get enough people telling you that the object was always to the left, it has always been to the left, and even if you remember that it was to the right, you're going to be confused because there's that sort of peer pressure, right? When a number of people will tell you that, no, I remember it was to the left. I remember it was to the left. And then you start, doubting yourself, right? But I remember to the right, but maybe, they can't all be wrong.
Yes,
right?
Like you have lying by omission, where you don't say something, and then you have lie by commission, where you present something as true that you know is false. And so, it's a deliberate, and I also refer to the interrogator bias, because there is a coercive element to the way they present the options. It's only A or B. Can't be C, D, E, F, G
framed,
to infinity.
Framed. Yeah.
Yep, they frame it, and I look at it as a dynamic between an interrogator and someone who's being interrogated, which is a master and a subservient type of dynamic. And that dynamic,
refined gaslighting.
Refined gaslighting is a great way of putting it. The gaslighting is interesting to me because why would you have a conspiracy theory put out there that would intentionally cause people to doubt their own perceptions? And I think the reason why is this: distract them with fake reality. And then it takes them out of the way of the authorities. Because now they're asking questions about Jif peanut butter and Hanes underwear.
To make the unpredictable predictable, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So all those ones who strayed from the mainstream path hit a guardrail, and it bounces them back on and keeps them in line. And even worse, and it's somewhat tricky, almost diabolical, is that if you go along with this notion, it actually leads you right into the heliocentric paradigm, into the totally chaotic universe where everything is always in flux. It's part of the post-reset religious view where, yes, we are pretty much like what you talked about with the quantum physics. We're looking at them bringing all these stray sheep back into the dominant paradigm.
Yes, quantum physics is completely false. There's nothing in it. It's just equations on paper. When you really look at it, you see that it can't. This can't be a round table of people going into the Mandela effect thing. However, they have all the memory that they want of all the facts that they want, and they run through scenarios like war games. It's really not humanly possible.
The people will defend their own matrix.
Mandela effect people do live with their attention centers in the reality that is provided by their memories and minds. And even though they would agree with a lot of your stage reality analysis, they cannot look in on their own minds to analyze them unless they sort of take a step back and move away from the mental character, which would cause its death.
Yeah, exactly.
You understand
And
what
some
I'm
of them
trying
are
to say?
their identity is fused with being part of this group, and that's how cults work. The cult makes you want to think that exile is worse than death. And you have to understand from their perspective that it is a closed system. So for example, when I debate people about the ones who are defending it really hardcore, I know that their frame of reference includes video and CGI as real. And until they can look at that objectively and say, well, what if it wasn't real? They never actually go and say, if this, then what? And to me, that was a key point here. It's like you have to go one step further. If they're doing it, what's the reason why? What are they hiding? And when you start asking those questions, then you start finding, okay, there might be some basis for this. But when I say they, it's whatever agencies are promulgating things like the Mandela effect, they really do their best to make sure that all the critical thinkers who can still perceive clearly are kept in this world stage framework. And I think that our channel, the Infinite Plane Society, we represent from those who are still basing their assessment on most or some of that stuff being real as presented. I mean,
It's still about the Mandela effect, but you would have to observe a reality that you are not in anymore, right? So you Mandela effect, they still live within the reality of memories and so on and so forth. They are unable to observe. Now, most of them exited the reality, so they have the ability to observe and scrutinize it from the outside, okay? But they would need to first exit the reality inside of their minds to be able to even observe it and scrutinize it, okay? So the mind reality, in the reality of mind, it is impossible to observe and scrutinize it as anything else, So any evidence to the contrary, like you said, will be refused as lunacy, or because anything but destroying the reality that sustains the character. It is the same for someone who lives in the mind reality. That is why I say that there's this danger even when we take a step back and the new character is born in that new reality that is no longer the reality we were in. Some Mandela affected people spend more time complaining about those who don't see it in the same way that they do than debating the actual presentations themselves or what they want to present, right? They spend more time complaining about those who don't see it. Why? Because they need to feed the reality that they now exist in, because their previous character died, it was traumatic, a new character was born, and they don't want to go through the same trauma again. So you need to feed the reality by saying everyone else is wrong and I'm right. The problem is that they have so much soul investment put on a certain reality that the next character death will not be without trauma, right? Because there's already so much investment in it.
Yeah, that's the fear. That's the worst thing that could happen with a cult, is that its members can't survive the death of the cult, and so they die with it because they see themselves as inseparable. That's the end goal, I think. When they all have become one, and the cult has subsumed all of their identities, and now they're all just extensions of it, and they can all die at once like Jim Jones. And this is a fascinating phenomenon and topic because it's so huge right now, just as bad, blocking roads with signs that basically say the end is near. So they probably have you out there convinced the world's about to end. And